Wait. Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of Ramdu at the Wall. We're here with the
Ari Lewis Show.
As always. And for those wondering, is Mashiach going to come on Tisha B'Av? I don't know. But let's get into Parashas Devarim and the commentary of the Ramdu. Here we go. There's a lot of really cool themes in this week's shir. I would say there's three things that come, or maybe, I don't know, maybe four things, whatever it is, that come often. And that is the theme of Mishlei is all through the Parsha. Right? What is the theme of Mishlei? If you had to wrap it up on one foot. Tzaddik in Russia. Right? The Tzaddik is a great guy, he understands, and the Rasha is a bad guy, and he always makes us do Averas, right? So it comes all through the Parsha. Why? Because the power to suppress klipas is the koyach called Navon, right? The power to read in between the lines. Remember we did the Parsha about the Nadarim, made for the neder, to bring down a neder.
Right, about. Yeah.
Right, that's right. So how do you do that? With the koyach of Navon, which is wisdom and understanding, to get inside people's nusach of lashon, inside their style of linguistic speaking, and to be able to understand the kavana or intentions in words. So if I were to say, Ari Lewis Show, I don't ever want to eat your bread again. Did I mean that?
No, you probably said it out of anger.
And therefore I meant, Ari Lewis Show, I don't want to get in this long argument with you and it's too hard to talk about it. Your bread again. Right? But people don't talk that way. They just they cut and paste their arguments. You know, like Ari Lewis Show, why did you have to sit in the front seat of my car? What I was really saying was, I had a hamburger, I was on the way, I would have really liked you to sit in the back, but it's not appropriate, you're my friend, and you're in the front. So it came out as a rude and crass comment, but I had really no time on you sitting in the front seat. So you have to realize, the guy was tired, he was eating, and I saw the hamburger. I'm not going to sit in the back seat, but I understand where he's coming from. Right? So when you understand with Amunah Shlema, everything's like that. Nobody really has tainas on you. You know why? I don't know you well enough. I'll never know you well enough, even your wife, to know really. So when we give you like a patch or tainas, it's really my avodah zara, my yetzer hara, my shtus malecha on you, and it cannot be personal. Like gufa, it cannot be personal. How are you to be blamed for sitting in my front seat? You didn't know. I mean, it has nothing to do with you. So when we go off on people, it's not them. Therefore, you have to have emunah in your standing with God, your standing in wisdom and understanding, to be able to read into it. When you get in my car, this is what I teach my Mishlei class, you are not to be moron man. I mean, don't come in blind, just like, yeah. Be aware. Okay, guy eating food, on the run, he's nervous, he's uptight. Hey man, can I sit in the back? I don't want to bother you.
You said moron man?
Moron man.
Moron man.
Moron man is just when you're kind of oblivious, right? Mishlei is all about not being moron man. It's about walking into a situation alert and with kavana, so that you don't get the hit on the head from people and their shtusim. But no one can be alert all the time. So you have to, when you're not, and then you receive the attack, by having the wisdom and understanding to delve into speech, and from speech, action and thought, you can then figure out a person's soul's intentions that even they might not be aware of. Because they're also, remember, in moron man. So this theme of being on Navon is all through the Parsha. Why? How do you subordinate klipas? How do you subordinate evil? It's the power of Navon. Have you ever heard of Mount Sinai? Have you ever heard of the 10 Commandments given at Mount Sinai? So what do we say? Hashem said 2 mitzvahs. What's the Gematria Torah? 611. And how many mitzvahs are there? 613. Where's the other 2? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said 2 mitzvahs. What are they? Anachi Hashem Lekecha ve'lo yeh lecha acherem. Don't have no other gods, and I am Hashem your God. Correct?
Yeah, right.
But how many times did God say that? Once. Uno. He said one thing and we heard 2. It's called, from the mouth of God, we heard 2. V'shtayim epia gavora. Right? So that thinking, the entire Torah is given mepia gavora. From the mouth of God we heard 2. This is why Chazal learned the Torah pashut, lafi pshuto, For example, when the brothers were upset at Yosef and the whole thing in Mitzrayim, and Yosef said, "Ani Yosef, I'm Joseph." What do we say? The brothers, they were upset, they were angry. What about the Kabbalah of it? They died because their neshamas popped out of their bodies. Like, wow, it's Yosef. So, Lefi Pshuto, of course they were upset. There was a whole balagan with Yosef. But is that mamash the only thing that happened? After Yosef says, "Ani Yosef," and the brothers are there, their mamash is mad at Yosef? After all these years, that's what it comes down to? Like a family feud? Or was there Giloi Shechina there? Pasha, there was Giloi Shechina there. But the Rabbanim in the Chazal of the Talmud, right, only speak one pshat, one day, Lefi Pshuto. But no one says that's all that happened, that there was no Elokus there. So where was the Elokus? From the mouth of God we hear two. There's always the Lefi Pshuto taich, the Lefi Pshuto take on the Torah, the obvious answer, the obvious. Of course the brothers were upset after the whole charade with Yosef. But there's also the deeper angle. We call that deeper angle the Torah of Shem. The very subtle take of Torah that's so subtle it usually goes over people's minds. Alright? Therefore, how do you chop the real subtle nature of Torah? Right? How do I chop the language that you're speaking and you're not always aware of it? Navon. The power to delve into language. That power of Navon is what subordinates Klippa. I.e., Moshe Rabbeinu, his neshama was keneged all of Klal Yisrael, and it had the power to subordinate all Klippa. Why? If you were a Gibeonite or a Moabite, would you be able to outmaneuver and talk Moshe Rabbeinu?
I don't think so.
No, because Lashon HaKodesh is the basis of all languages. I think we have a visitor to the shir tonight. Yashikoyach. So Moshe Rabbeinu has spoke Lashon HaKodesh better than anyone. How do we know that? He wrote the Chumash, right? Now, all the languages, the Torah was translated, the 70 Lashonis. We know that all languages come from Lashon HaKodesh. Anyone who's been in yeshiva for 3 weeks knows, how do you say fruit in English? Fruit. What is it in Hebrew? Pri. Very similar. How do you say sandal in English? Sandal. How do you say it in Hebrew? Sandal. You can see all the nitzutzos. There's a guy by the name of, what's his name? I forget his name. A guy in Sfat. It was Sfat. He has a thing called Edenics. And they trace all the languages, and they show how all the different languages can be rooted back to Biblical Hebrew. So when a Moabite is trying to outmaneuver Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe is going into Navon mode. He knows what the guy's saying, even without knowing the language like so well, because it's the same energies are rooted in the languages of Lashon HaKodesh, Holy Tongue. Moshe Rabbeinu can subordinate all Klippa, i.e. the Klippa is not going to even have a Havamina to outdo Moshe. Not happening. Right? It's a subordination. When the king walks in the room, Moshe Melech, Moshe the king, the Klippas know game over. So with Yisro giving the program of the judges and the order of the courts, remember in Parashas Yisro, you have to be like tens and hundreds and thousands, right? What were the main requirements to find the judges for the Sanhedrin Kilu that they set up there? Find wise men, Anshe Chayil, and men who are Navon. In the retelling of the story in Devarim, why does the Chumash skip the Navon? 2 reasons are offered by our holy friend the Ramdu. Number 1, everyone who's a Navon is a Chacham. You cannot be a guy who masters Lashon and have no Chachma. There's no such thing as a natural skill of Navon and not Chachma. And probably the most probable, it's not common, and you're not going to find it. The Zohar tainas that the Mashiach level of Gula is the Navon. The Mochen Godless from the left side of Bina, the Gimel Rishonim. The missing element of that mentality is where all witchcraft and Avodah Zorah comes in the world. I.e., if I'm not supporting your Lashon, guess what you're going to do to me? Witchcraft. Right? You're going to use your Lashon against me. It's a Lashon war. Everything's a language war. I study English in my spare time. English was a war in the 1700s, 1600s about the grammar and the lexicon, the dictionaries. It was a war. How to make English. English is a great example because we're still living in the development of it. So language by definition is war. David HaMelech was called a man of war. Ish Milchama. What was the war? Torah She Baal Peh. That was his war. A man of the oral Torah. The oral Torah is the war. Also, but the Iker war was in Torah. That's why Mashiach, what do we say, his Keli Milchama, his weaponry of war are words of Torah. See Masechet Shabbos for that.
So is all witchcraft through words?
Yes. There is like hocus pocus stuff in Mitzrayim, but like real witchcraft today, like the most, I guess how would you say it? Is there billiards that's not classic billiards? Is there bumper pool?
I guess.
Have you ever seen bumper pool?
Yeah.
But no one's playing bumper pool on ESPN.
Right.
Okay, it's just billiards.
Yeah.
Right, there's kind of goofy, there's like backyard basketball, right? But probably not like championship that you're going to want to give color commentary on, correct?
Right, or bowling that's got those things.
That's right. I do that, but God forbid. So what we have is that witchcraft in the NBA version, right? the credible version is words. Remember our witchcraft? Tell me a Dvar Torah one sentence. Mr. Rabbi, tell me a Dvar Torah one sentence, quick on the top of your head. There's two opinions about that.
Right. Rishon is first person in the world.
There's two opinions about that.
Right.
So all it is a bluff, and it's a joke, because all I want to do is say, you don't know, I know more than you, and then when I say there's two opinions, you're like, oh, well, I guess I should stop now. And then I'll say, yes, and then okay, now what we have is the Navon is the power to subordinate Klipa. Again, if the world subordinates Klal Yisrael through witchcraft, as the Ramdu said, how do we get out of Galus? Through Navon, by undoing the witchcraft. So if you're going to witchcraft me as the Etzim of Galus, how do you get out of Galus and Nagula? Be a Navon. The Navon cannot be witchcraft, because when you start to say there's two opinions, the Navon says, show me the source. Let's look it up. Oh, well, I don't have it. Oh, good, I have a smartphone today, and I have all of Shas on my phone. Let's look it up. What's the problem? See, the witchcraft wasn't even thinking of the Lashon. The Navon's saying, what's the Lashon? Because if you say that there's two opinions, Adam Rishon being the first, blah, 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 what's the Lashon? He's thinking Lashon. For example, if I want to witchcraft you in business, and I say, hey, I want you to work for me, I'm opening a radio station. Why is that witchcraft? Because you're going to ask me what?
How much are you going to pay me?
What are the numbers? And if I wasn't thinking that, well, come on, partner, just trust me. You can trust me?
No.
Why not? I'm good, man. I'm trustworthy. Are you doubting me? Are you doubting me?
I am.
See?
Show me the money.
Show me the money. So every genre it's that. If you want to go to Best Buy to buy a computer, right, and you don't know what's going on, what are the chances of you getting ripped off? Pretty high. But if you say, look, I'm looking for this, and this, you got that? Oh, he can help you over there. So now that we're saying,
Same with cars.
also, in fact, everything. This camera, those pants, this tile, that phone, that chair, everything had a choice of Avodah Zorah or divine Avodah Hashem. When the Bala Kotel bought this chair, what are the chances that some guy just said, hey, trust me, I sell you chair, it's all good, it's good, don't worry. But there's probably something to be Navon and check it out, correct? Okay, so this koyach of Navon and the Chacham and the rarity of Navon is Mishlei world. The Tzaddik world is Navon. The Rasha world exploits the lack of Navon. Remember, Zohar saying Mashiach, Navon world, Bilam, Balak, Avodah Zorah, witchcraft, Kishuf, lack of Navon world. When the television is selling you something, it's because you are missing that koyach of Navon. When we say 3 easy payments, it's not. Okay, so we see something very interesting where this power of Mishlei comes from, aside from the fact that it's all through the Parsha. He says, get this is very interesting. He says that there's a concept in Kabbalah, I want to test you, this is a quiz, this is a pop quiz. The Klipa, which is cursed, Oirer, comes before the fruit or the Kedusha. How you say, like Baruch this or that. Where's that from? Where do you know that expression from? Oirer and Baruch. The Oirer comes before Baruch.
I don't know.
Have you ever celebrated Purim?
Sure.
Have you ever had a Suda on Purim?
Yeah.
Have you ever got so drunk, Adalo Yada, you said, Adalo Yada Bain, Haman, Aror Haman, LaBaruch, Mordechai?
I haven't really said that.
That you were supposed to not know the difference between cursed as Haman and blessed as Mordechai.
Right.
Okay, last time I checked, Haman was a Rasha, an evil guy.
Yeah.
Okay, last I checked, Mordechai was an alright guy, a tzaddik, correct?
Yeah.
Sounds very Mishlei, doesn't it? The tzaddik and the Rasha. Very much so. So we see the Mishlei is like a sub-theme of the entire Torah and 70 faces of the Torah, correct?
Yeah.
So kind of like on one stream, it's this whole thing, tzaddik and Rasha. through Shas and the Talmud, what's the underlying current? The rabbi was the tzaddik, and the Akum Russia, and he was trying to rip him off, and he put on his tefillin, whatever it is. That theme runs the whole gauntlet of Torah. Right? Now, the Ramdu brings that same idea in terms of Klipa and Kedusha. What's the Chiddush? If you plug in the Kabbalistic framework from Mishlei, all these things in Purim, right? In Kabbalah, there's cursed and blessed, the Klipa and the fruit. What is the inner meaning of Purim? When we say, I don't know the difference between Haman and Mordechai, everyone knows the difference. But when you understand what the Ramdu is saying, that is the essence of Kabbalah, I guarantee you, at your Purim Suda, you weren't thinking at the time that is the essence of Kabbalah. So it's very easy to say Russia and Tzaddik, correct? Yeah. But when I tell you it's the essence of the Torah, Lefik Alpi Kabbalah, now you probably really don't know the difference between cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordechai. To the point where you can say, oh, I got it, that's pretty pashut. No. So the point of Purim is the sod of Torah, and you get excited and happy during the meal, and when you should get so opened up that you can talk Kabbalah openly, that Adaluyana, you don't know the difference. Why? Because now Kabbalah can come in, and no, you don't know the difference, because it's much deeper than you ever imagined. Again, the power of Navon and Chachma. When you have your meal during the week, you're probably not so much in Navon territory, like darshaning the Birkat HaMazon and darshaning the conversation. At the Purim Suda, there's a koyach to darshan everything. It's Megale. So when you're speaking to me at the table, you're probably not going to kishuv me. Why? Because I'm a Navon and you're a Navon. And now that we're Navonim at the Purim Suda, and we say Avraham and Baruch Mordechai, now our leiv and our moyach, our heart and mind are open to say, man, you're right, I really don't know. You understand that? Very good, isn't it? Now, okay, that's one constant concept. So now let's look at it this way. There's the left side Navon and the right side Chachma. Are you aware of something called the left and the right?
Sure.
Okay. Are you aware in Kabbalah there's something called the left and the right?
Yeah.
All right. So what we have is, Ramdu tells you a tremendous chiddush. Left and right in Kabbalah is actually upper and lower.
So it's not even, or is it?
No, pay attention. Left and right is actually upper and lower. How is that possible? Because what we're saying is there's something called Shem Elokim and Shem Havaya. Is that correct?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Right. Shem Havaya is in Teferet, above. Shem Elokim is down below in Malchus. How did Elijah defeat the prophets of the Baal? Hashem hu ha-Elokim. And that power, says the Ramdu, is the power to do what again? Subordinate Klipa. Subordinate evil. How do I have a power of Navon? How do I tear apart your kishuf? When I am like Eliyahu and I say Hashem hu Elohim, that gives me the power to subordinate Klipa, get rid of the kishuf, be a Navon, connect with Chachma. Correct, Amundo?
Yes.
So now we know that it's like this. Look, the upper and the lower. But what we're saying is, when it really comes out in Tachlis, it's the right arm of God and the left arm of God. And we know Navon is left and Chachma is right. So it turns out all klechis of right and left also align in parallel. Remember, the left kav, the left side, joins with the right side. And then they unite the middle pillar, correct?
Yeah.
So when we have left and right, ultimately it's a yichud in the middle of right, left, in the center kav, Hashem hu ha-Elohim.
Yeah, but left and right are the same level.
No one's saying that this is higher levels. All we're saying is the left and right kav also correspond to upper and lower. It's parallelism.
Okay.
You can say, am I sitting in front of you or are you sitting in front of me?
It's the same.
It's the same, but I can say I'm sitting in front of Ari. You can equally say,
I'm sitting in front of you.
that's right.
But if I fly above you, I'm
Yeah.
higher than you.
But we're not talking higher or lower. When you want to say, okay, when I say upper, I don't mean higher, like I'm better than you. It's a spatial existence. If there's a slant on the ground, technically I'm sitting higher than you, let's say. But am I really higher than? No.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, and from that, there's like all of Kabbalah pretty much can be in this in the upper-lower scenario or right-left scenario. And all of our vessels in the Parsha work that way. Again, Navon, Chachma, right, left, Yad Chazaka, Yad Gedolah, Hashem, all those things. That power, which is a yichud of Yesod and Malchus, right, the connection of the upper world When that happens, when you're there in the mind, like Elijah was, the klippas must be knocked down in front of you. They have no chance. That's why that is, Einod Movado. All these things that we say, have Amunah, have Betachon, Hashem Elohim, the Prophet Elijah, all these things has one function. The soul of Moshe Rabbeinu, Nishmat Moshe, to subordinate klippas. I mean, that is Kabbalah one on foot. Now, let's look at my notes. All right, we know that Klal Yisrael, the end of the last book, they were journeying to all these places, doing tikkunim, and they weren't talking about the Veras they were doing tikkunim, lamala, 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 lamala. What they were also experiencing, because of the nature of the tikkunim in these locations, were tremendous dinim. It wasn't like the Bahamas and Bermuda with a martini. It wasn't like that. Imagine, you saw the movie The Karate Kid.
Yeah.
When they went to the beach, what did Daniel do? The crane kick on a stump.
Yeah, with one foot.
That's right. So when you and I would go to the beach, we'd say, "Hey, Ari," with our umbrellas and the towels and martini, and we'd have a good time, right? But Mr. Miyagi would say, "Hey, go stand on that stump and kick for an hour." Why? Because we're at a place with a stump. What else do you do with a place with a stump? Then you would say, "That's a nice stump. Yes, your koyach." So then, when we would go to a pond, you and I would sit in the canoe and have a cola and fish and have a good time, right?
Yeah.
What would Mr. Miyagi say? Hey, it's a great opportunity to stand on a canoe and do kicks and stuff. I.e., when they were going to the cities and journeying, the vessels of the town were set up for very harsh training. It was training, spiritual training. Another way of saying it in English Hebrew, right? They were doing tikkunim to establish the kedusha, to learn how to subordinate klippa, through dinim to basically establish Eretz Yisrael, the soul of Israel. So did Daniel win the karate contest on the canoe or in that goofy ring against the Cobra Kais? On the canoe. The Cobra Kais was a formality. Mashiach is a formality from this mashal state point of view. They really established it then. Why is the whole world recognizing Akash Baruch Hu today? Even the Goyim. How do we know even Goyim? Because there's no Avodah Zarah today. Everyone does Shituf. It's like a mutter Avodah Zarah kilo. It's a very strange thing. The whole world believes in Akash Baruch Hu, but through Shituf. But why is there no more Avodah Zarah? Because Klal Yisrael in the time of Bamidbar, they established the tikkunim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Borei Olam, for all of time. Now it took a little while to come out. By his Rishon, the destruction, the Korban. By his Sheni, the Korban. But today, Rav Aaron Soloveitchik even writes explicitly, the sheet of the Miri, because America, it's illegal to kill in America. Last time I checked, correct? Illegal to steal, illegal adultery, illegal to be without courts. All the 7 laws, they're illegal to do. You can't eat the limb of a donkey in America and not be in trouble. Therefore, by default, the goyim in the world are shomer shevet mitzvahs b'nei noach, only because their country disallows it. Therefore, at the very least, they're tinu shenishba, captives of birth, and their avodah zarah is only through shituf. Again, that's why Mashiach coming is more of a formality of highlight, almost like your rank test in karate, right? Your rank test is not really when you learn the maneuver. By the time of your rank test, you better have done it right, because there's really no excuse to do it wrong. That's why you're at the rank test.
Okay, but people do mess up on tests.
They do, but not Klal Yisrael.
But we messed up 10 tests.
They didn't. You mess up, they didn't. They had divine providence from 42 cities to not mess up.
Oh, we were punished.
You didn't read the Ramdu. Have you ever heard of Rebbe Akiva?
Sure.
You've heard of him. Did he die?
Yeah.
Did he mess up?
Yes, he did.
But not in that death. That death was a big Kiddush Hashem.
Yeah,
have you ever davened on Yom Kippur?
Yeah.
Have you ever read the 10 martyrs?
Right.
Did they die?
Yeah.
Guess what the Arizal says about them? When they died, their neshamas went mamish up to the Olam Akshava, the world of thought. Famous idea in Kabbalah and Chassidus and even davening Yom Kippur, correct?
Yeah.
There's a very strange concept. The Arizal talks about it in the opening of Eitz Chaim, that their neshamas went straight up, like their guf was a korban to the Sitra Achra, like in Shlemus. Why does that happen? It's a weird thing, and I don't want to get into why, but it happened. right? The Sitra Achra was calm after the 10 martyrs, and we went into Gullus, and we were allowed to survive 2,000 years of exile. Not fun, but because of the kapara of the karbanos of the martyrs.
But there's an opinion that that generation of the desert didn't go to all.
I'm not done. Shkoyach.
Okay.
So now we know the essence of the 10 martyrs was Rabbi Akiva.
Yeah.
All right, and we know his soul was matakin when he had his flesh raked off his body. Now, this is where I'm getting at. This blew my mind as much as it's about to blow yours. How do you say the generation of the desert was righteous when we know they messed up? That's your whole kasha. If, like the Amorites and the Moabites would not would have been wiped out, they weren't ready to be wiped out. It wasn't the time to wipe them out. So God engineered through Ashkacha Pratis that they would the Dor HaMidbar would not so much sin, but they were not their final tikkun of neshama. Imagine if Rabbi Akiva's soul is matakin by going to Olam Akshava, correct?
Okay.
Their souls also receive tikkun by not going into the land. I'll give you a really bad mashal. I don't know if it's a good mashal or not. I'll try it, yeah? LeBron won the championship.
Okay.
Did he really? Or was Steph Curry a martyr? Because the game was fixed. I mean, the fouls and Draymond out.
It wasn't fixed, but Steph Curry didn't have a good series.
But Draymond never should have been ejected in that one game that would have changed the whole series.
Okay.
So, for LeBron to be successful, Steph had to die. Key, lahavdil.
Yeah.
Like a lack of Yerida L'Tzorach Aliyah. A lack of success is actually some other success. It's not a perfect mashal.
Right.
But the idea is they had to die before going in the land. That was actually their perfection of soul. Now, we're not done. So now that entire generation, just like Rabbi Akiva, goes up their neshamas to Atzilus Mamish, to where there's a parsuf in Kabbalah called Dor HaMidbar and Nishmat Moshe and all these things in the desert. The Rizal then says, in the time of Geula, Pinchas Eliyahu will be a peh for Moshe Rabbeinu, just like Aaron HaKohen was. And the Dor HaMidbar will return into Chiyas HaMesim before the Geula. And Eliyahu will be a peh to Moshe Mashiach. It's the Rizal and Geshar Gogulim.
Okay, but the opinion says they're going to Olam Haba. You're saying it's because
Wait a second. We're not talking Olam Haba. We're talking Olam Hazeh. What we're saying is their story and mission back then is not done. It's like there's part 2.
Okay, so then that's the answer.
What?
What I'm saying is, if Pirkei Avot says that the generation of Babidbar did not go to Olam Haba,
Yeah.
That they lost it, would
Yeah.
tell you that they're wicked people.
Right.
But if you're saying they're going to come back,
Yeah.
then it's saying it's not finished yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Fine.
Yeah. Sure. So it's a good shot, right?
Yeah.
So this is how you have that Moshe gets to Chiyas HaMesim. How do we know that? Az Yashir Moshe. Moshe will sing again, right? And then we know that the Dor Midbar is resurrected at the time of the Gula. So this is what we're saying. All those that didn't go into the land, it looked like a chisaron, but we know that Moshe Rabbeinu himself. It's a very strange thing. In Magid Meisharim, Yosef Karo speaks about a level of tzaddik like Rabbi Akiva who ascends to Olam Makshava. And this is where the note stream get their whole backside version of the story, because there are these concepts in Kabbalah, not like that. I'm saying of elevation of soul to Atzilus Mamish. It's called a kruvim. Those neshamas were very special neshamas. That's why they were not allowed to go in the land, and they will come back in a tachiyah before the Gula to enter into Eretz Yisrael for Bia Shlishi and the Zman Gula Mamish. Right? So those souls are designated for the time of the Gula. Therefore, it's interesting. We see in Histalkus a taking of those souls out, and we know that Moshe for sure, Moshe Mashiach, then Moshe will sing. Right? So there is a return. And that's what I think the Rashi and other commentators want to say. That type of Gilgal is called Techiyas HaMesim. That's one of the first levels of resurrection of the dead. It's a fantastic idea. So again, though they didn't mess up, it looks like they did. That's part of the Bechira. Now get this also. This is fantastic. There was something called the Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Exodus from Egypt, which you're well aware of. And we mentioned the going out from Egypt on all the holidays and Shabbos, in some way, shape, or form. Shabbos is the Ruchnius, and then on Passover, on Shavuos, and then the clouds of glory, all these things. It's a very Moed, time-based redemption. Meaning, I, the average Yid, I don't really think about the Gula except on holiday time. But there's another Gula. What do you do during the weekday? How do you connect the redemption on the weekday? Well, yes, but hold on. There's another aspect of them. They didn't just go out of Egypt to where Hashem says, don't forget the miracles, don't forget the miracles, don't forget the miracles. Sorry, I forgot the miracles. How do you like me now? They didn't just get Geula from Egypt. Going to the 42 cities, that was a type of Geula. It was like a what do you call it? Almost like the playoffs in the championship round, right? When the Bulls were at their best, because it was pretty much a given they were going to win the series, correct? Yeah. Right. So the playoffs was one aspect, where the black shoes came on, and then the championships was a formality for Michael Jordan, in retrospect. So in the generation of the desert, or in the desert literally, why did they go to the desert? It was the most extreme klippa of the whole world and of all time. Like, that was the fight and test. So we get chizik today, not only remembering Egypt, but the desert as well. So this is why Hashem is saying to these guys, if it's not enough that you remember the wonders coming out of Egypt, like my great hand, don't forget the strong hand, or vice versa, right, of what I did to your enemies, the klippas, in the desert. So that's what we call connecting to the weekday. There's like a weekday geula and a moedik geula. So now get this. The clouds of glory, the Ramdu says we're connected to what? The desert and not Mitzrayim. What's the Chiddush? If Mashiach comes in the clouds of glory, if Mashiach comes on a donkey, we think that the clouds of glory are higher, and the donkey's like, What's the Chiddush? Mitzrayim was the ani riding on a donkey. And the clouds of glory are the desert. Which means, if I thought I was never going to get the clouds of glory, and I thought I was getting the donkey. Turns out, you don't want the donkey, which you thought was the clouds of glory. You want the clouds of glory, which you thought was the donkey. Meaning, there's a stronger koyach of geula in your shvach weekday avoda than on like your Shabbos avoda. Now, we're not saying the Shabbos type of avoda won't happen. Mashiach can come riding on a donkey, but don't think it's reversed. Because there's a very strong power of redemption right now, Wednesday at the Kaisel. It doesn't have to be Shabbos. Shabbos is great, but so's now.
But Shabbos is higher.
Mitzrayim was higher. But what we're saying is, like, look at the Bulls. What was higher? The playoffs or the championships? It was Michael Jordan going crazy. You see what I'm saying? When you watch the rerun, do you really care if it was a championship series versus the playoffs? Or do you just want to see the highlight?
Probably just some stuff, though, I want just the championship.
But Derek Law, you're not going to say the lesser caliber dunk in the playoffs than the finals.
Yeah, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Whereas some genres, it's only the finals that count.
Right. Okay.
For example, if you saw a Pink Floyd concert, do you want the warm-up of them practicing or the concert?
Concert.
Exactly. These are not perfect mushals. You see what I'm trying to say?
Okay.
All right. Now where are we at? This is interesting. Have you ever heard of the Shulchan Aruch?
Sure.
All right. The Shulchan Aruch was written by Yosef Karo, Rabbi Yosef Karo, and what was he called as a halachist point of view? What do you call the Shulchan Aruch from a halachic point of view? We call him the Mechaber. He compiled the Shulchan Aruch basically from the Rif, the Rush, and the Rambam. Okay. The Ramdu is revealing. Have you ever heard of Yaakov's blessing to Yehuda? That the scepter and the lawgiver shall never depart from Yehuda.
Right. The scepter doesn't leave to Mashiach.
Right, but then also the lawgiver. What's the lawgiver? It's called a mechoikik. All right, that's the Hebrew. I never saw anyone actually refer to Moshe Rabbeinu as the lawgiver. But it makes total sense. So the Ramdu is saying, and it happens at the end of Devarim, I think when Moshe was buried in, I think Shevet Gad, which is not Eretz Yisrael, I might be wrong, they call him the Mecholkik. It's either in the Pasuk or the Midrash, I can't remember. I think the Pasuk. And the idea is it's a very interesting way to refer to Moshe as the Mecholkik. It's the same way that from a halachist point of view, it's a geschmack to say Mechaber, when talking halacha, as opposed to saying Rabbi Yosef Karo. You see what I'm saying? It's like Again, you call Michael or his airness, right? Air Jordan. It's a Hamish reference in Halacha. You wouldn't call it Maimonides, you call him the Rambam. So too, Moshe Rabbeinu had a title most people are not familiar with, the Machokek. And what's more interesting is we say that will never depart Yehuda ad Shiloh Yabo, ad Shiloh Bo, ad Shiloh Yavo, ad Yavo Shiloh, ad Yavo Shiloh, until Shiloh comes. What's the gematria of Shiloh? Moshe. Moshe. What's the gematria Yavo Shiloh? Shiloh will come, Mashiach. So I thought that was an interesting taich. All right, hang with me 1 second. So the Shekhinah was given to Israel in this whole journey through the 42 journeys through the desert. And that whole time, I'm going to stare at my notes here for a second. That whole time Hashem is building the world with Shem Ma. In Kabbalah, we know in the Kabbalah the world is restored in Atzilus through Shem Ma. That's what's going on through Klal Yisrael, through the desert. And the Shekhinah is given to Israel at that time. Israel has no success as long as the Shekhinah is not with them. When Israel has success is when the Shekhinah is with them. We lost our recording there for some reason. Don't worry about it. Let it go. We're probably out of time. Which, if you remember my concept about Oraisa. Oraisa is the wisdom given to Israel through the power of the revelation of the Shekhinah. And it's that Navon, right? The ability to give over Chachma, the Jewish Chachma, for all the generations. That starts at Sinai with the Chumash. That Masorah, as we know in Pirkei Avos, is given to Yeshua, to the Nevi'im, to the Zakanim, all these things. Therefore, you have an era of Tanakh. You have the Zugim in the Bayis Sheni. You have the Mishnah. You have the Gemara. You have the Talmud. You have the Gonim. You have the Rishonim. You have the Achronim. You have Rabbi David Katz of the Kaisel. But Judaism was given a koyach of giving over Jewish wisdom, i.e. called Torah, but it's not called Torah, it's actually called Oraisa, which you may know it as Deraisa. Right? And what is Deraisa? It's the Shoresh of Torah and it's continuing. Right? So when Rabbi Akiva wrote Torah, that was part of Deraisa, or Oraisa. Right? It came from Sinai and it continued and continued. It's our own way of doing it. It's the Torah of the Iker. It's a unique style. Right? It's like we have fractals of it in Torah. The Brisker Derech is an aspect of Deraisa. Why? Because there's a style called Svara, and then they did it, and his son did it, and they did it. There's always been iterations of the main fractal. Jews have a way of giving over wisdom that is unique. It's called Emes. It's called Torat Emes, Torat Moshe, Torat Hashem, Torah Hashem. All these terms. If you're a Yid, you have Shechina, you have Giloi Shechina, and you have a mouth that speaks the truth. You cannot help but giving over Deraisa. All what you can do is work on being Tahor and Kadosh. And if you're a Kohen or Levi, as Moshe's Bracha and the prophecy of Malachi, you have a natural gift to give over Torah, Deraisa. And the opposition is Yavin, Greece. They think that by observing phenomena and having their way, it's real wisdom. It isn't. I mean, it is. But the Jewish way is like the truth. The Rambam talks about it in Moreh Nevuchim. In Moreh Nevuchim. That time, according, I guess, to Aristotle, to quote the Rambam, right, is that the universe has no beginning, no end. Avram Avinu said, Mapitom. Avram said there was a beginning, Bereshit, and then it keeps going. Moshe Rabbeinu at Sinai sanctifies Abrahamic thinking. That becomes Deraisa. We say the world is 5,700 and soon to be 777 years old. Very soon, right? That's Jewish thinking. From that thought, you can get all Jewish thought. If you believe that the universe has no beginning and end, that's called Greek thinking. You're now out of Jewish thought. You don't even understand a single Mishnah if you're doing that. Once you say the world has started with Bereshit, and you think according to Deraisa, now you're in with Jewish Chachma. So now you can plug into that system. The Tanakh bought into that system. Shmuel HaNavi, in his Nevuah, had that system. Every Jew that ever lived, whether he knew it or not, wanted it or not, had that system. The greats were called Moses, and then Joshua, and then Shmuel, and then King David, and the Tanakh, and then Rabbi Akiva, and then Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and yada yada yada. Again, we had another reference of Nefesh Hager, in reference to Malchus of Atzilus, another proof of when it says Ger in a pasuk, which we have, and he says Nefesh Hager, all souls come into this world through Nefesh Hager, but Nefesh Hager Prati, like by itself, is most apropos, like 1A, a Ger non-Jew, like 1A. There is obviously the convert Ger, and you're a Ger. Any Baal Tshuva who yesterday was eating treif, and today he comes and says, now I'm Baal Tshuva, he's a Ger. It's usher to taunt him. For the same reason, it's usher to taunt the Ger. There's Moshe Rabbeinu with godless, and Moshe Rabbeinu not of godless. And that sounds like a really ridiculous thing to say.
Sounds radical.
Yeah. Moshe Rabbeinu was godless, but when he's dealing with the people, godless doesn't help. So when they have to judge their cases, he enters a lower level. This is why I want to bring that lower level thing in. Because Moshe is mostly connected to Tiferet, right? Zeranpin. But he's also Dot. And he oscillates between Tzedek on high and Mishpat on low. Mishpat low versus them. When Moshe enters Mishpat, which is all three columns, when we're talking about coming again, when he knows what to do, albeit on the level of the people, then he enters a place called Tzedek. That's called Malchus. It's called Chochmah Titah, the lower wisdom. Malchus is simultaneously called the lower wisdom. Moshe is given the level called Yesod of Abba. Basically, wisdom in the highest world is synonymous with Moses. But there's a level where it is indigenous, and it nests, we say, the wisdom nests in Malchus. King Solomon, Shlomo Melech, had that level of Malchus wisdom. So we see Moshe had many levels. When he brought it down to Tachlis, into Malchus, Moshe was a king, was he not?
Yeah.
So that's that level of Malchus, which is called Tzedek, where Nefesh Hager is. What do we call it then? Ger Tzedek. Lefi Pshuto, the desert was a very bad place with lots of klippas, and the commentaries want to say there were snakes and scorpions there. And that's Lefi Pshuto. If I say, wow, we're going to go to a very scary place, what would you say? Are there snakes and scorpions there? I would say, yes, it's very creepy and spooky. And that's like a very lame shot, right? But if I said, no, Ari, don't laugh, because if there's snakes and scorpions, there's really rough characters. That's a mushal for what really is like, robbers and bad guys and right? So the pshuto on a shallow level serves as a kind of a hint, like wink, wink. It's a bad neighborhood. Roll up the windows. There's something called in Upper Israel, Israel Elah, and there's something called Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. You heard of the land of Israel?
Sure.
So why is speaking Lashon Hara so bad in the land of Israel? Because the land has a mamish, and this is not like a feel-good statement, a soul. There's an neshama. When the spies spoke Lashon Hara, they literally perverted the soul of the land. And then, as the Vilna Gaon says in his writings, the rectification of the spies, you must pull that Lashon Hara out and repair it the right way, whatever that repair is. Because there's a bona fide soul in the land. Therefore, any sin in the land perverts the soul. Therefore, what we call the Torah Eretz Yisrael, or the wisdom of the land of Israel, is a real thing. It's the soul in the earth that we garment on high. Anything given to Israel that's eternal is when it has the level and to their seed after them. So if you're just a guy and you don't have the koyach called the seed after you, you're called a saris, you're a eunuch. When Pinchas, before he killed Zimri and Cosby, he was a eunuch. Why? That's my word. Why? Because he wasn't a Cohen. So there's no such thing as the son of Pinchas. Doesn't exist. There's sons of Aaron. They exist. Because they're the seed after them. When Pinchas slaughters Zimri and Cosby, and Hashem says, here's the Brit Shalom for you and your seed after you. Now there's something called the son of Pinchas. The Jewish people received the blessing from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, right? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov were promised their seed after them. That was granted at the redemption, at the Gula, until Har Sinai. At Sinai, it was Chal, it was activated, and now there's something called Toldus, offspring of Bnei Israel. So now there's something called a lineage, a heritage, a tradition. You'd have a mitzvah to tell your children of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Why? Because you are now not just the Ari Lewis show, you have offspring you are commanded to perpetuate. That's the power that came out of the redemption and at Har Sinai. Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking to the people in the desert. His test of Amunah is he's talking to the people, pay attention to this, he's talking to the people, and remember, the people represent Malchus, right? That's the people, lowest level, the Shekhinah. And there's a Ruach to them, right? There's a higher existence. And we call that a Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? The God of the revelation, where God, his Hashgacha Pratis comes in the world, the right hand and left hand. Moshe's job and his task of Amunah, by talking to the people, remember, he's what? He's a Navon. So he has to elevate speech to the level of Bina. What that means is he talks to the people, sees the people. As he's working with them, he has to hear HaKadosh Baruch Hu talking with the people, but in their own nusach of language. His job was to make the yichud the whole time by being an avon. So the challenge is to be in that state of mind of Amunah. It's not just that he knew it, he had to work with the yichud of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Shekhinah through a God in the world and the Jewish people. He had to make it. There was no revach. There was only the yichud. But literally interacting, and remember, they don't know it. They're the people. And they're going to be dying in the desert, going up. It was irrelevant about them. Moshe's task was to make the yichud. There's a concept of you have to govern every case of din with the most integrity and integrity. I mean, you can't say to rip somebody off to do a chilul Hashem. I don't remember the pasuk it said it, but I have a note, and by the Hashgacha Pratis I learned it today in the Chagiga Daf Hey Amud Aleph from a pasuk in Malachi Perak Gimel pasuk Hey. It says, and again I forget the lashon, but it's like there's witchcraft and thievery, and Hashem exacts punishment on all of them, and the orphan, the widow, and the ger don't withhold judgment. The Talmud asks the question, what's pshat? And the answer is, don't think that the exacting punishment of a witch, of kishuf, makshefa, is more or less stringent than your foreign worker working for you. Because what would you say? Oh, the witch! Oh, kill her, take her out to the pole and burn her, right? But to the ger, to the Lashon ger, not convert. They cannot be convert. Why? It's your foreign worker. He's on a plane to Puerto Rico tomorrow. What are you going to think to do? Rip him off. Who cares? They'll never know. God says, no. Even that case, the ger, I got exact punishment on him just like all the severe crimes. So what's the chiddush? If you wanted to say that ger was a convert, can you say that? No. I mean, technically yes, but not really. Why does a person convert? Because they realize I'm a unified one guy. I have no one looking out for my best interest. If I become a Jew, now I'm part of the Kehillah. It's a lot harder to do gezela, openly steal from me, if I'm Jewish, than if I'm literally a foreigner checking in overnight. So when the pasuk says, don't rip off the ger, it's very hard to say it's a Jewish convert, even though it's plausible. It's not plausible. But who's most apropos that ger? It's the guy who knows nobody, has nobody. That's why there's a havamina to rip him off. And God says, don't do it. Don't oppress, don't taunt the ger. Very strong gear source. Very, very, very strong gear source. It's a chil Hashem to rip him off, and all the more so you want to take him from his derech of Ra. When you rip him off, you're basically saying, continue sinning. I don't care about you, and neither does God. A second. Another moral of the story of the Parsha is don't fear flesh and blood. That's like one of the main things. Right? So how do you not fear flesh and blood? Flesh and blood. When you're a klippa from Moab, you're flesh and blood. And therefore, what is the nefesh? Everyone has a nefesh. I don't know your neshama. I only see your nefesh. Right? When I say something funny and you smile, that was your nefesh. Now, with my analytical whatever, I can get into your neshama, but on first glance, I see a nefesh. I call the nefesh holy juices. Right? It's your sweat, your blood. So when I say, hey, Ari, you're a tremendous guy. You warmed up a little bit inside, your blood cooked a little bit, you turned a little flush, and you smiled, that was your nefesh. We interact with the nefesh. I say, you're a nasty guy, Ari Lewis Show. You got white, you got cold, you got stiff, that was your body juices reacting. Remember, that was a sin. If I insult you, it's a mitzvah if I encourage you. Remember that? Therefore, when Moab is kishufing me, witchcrafting me, what's doing the witchcraft? His blood, saliva, in his mouth, right? What moves your tongue and your lips? It's the saliva and your mouth juices, correct? Right. It's the power of the nefesh. And what God is saying, don't fear that. It's just flesh and juices on this guy. So when you're a navon and your brain juices, like the seichel, that's in your highest nefesh, and it's connected to God, and he's unaware of his connection to God, you have no reason to fear him. He's just flesh, blood, and guts. That's all it is. You goofa can't say he's more than that because he doesn't know he's more than that. And by definition, if you know that, you're coming from a higher connection. There's literally nothing to fear. That the Navon subordinates the Klippa. From the power of Hashem Hu Elohim. That's the power of the highest Seichel to subordinate that. And we may almost be done. This is interesting. There's something called in Halacha, B'nai Banav. Jewish man takes non-Jewish woman to be a pelegish, a concubine. He does not give her a ketubah. He impregnates her, and she conceives. That child belongs to her dad. Did you hear that, Kiddush? The child belongs to her dad, because Jewish man took woman illegally, not like on the highest law. They call that B'nai Banav, which means grandpa has grandkids, and we say the kids are like, how do you say it? Those kids are like his kids, right? They're kids to him. So the reason why we have weird laws, B'nai Banav, you would say it means the kid of the kid. No, it means the grandpa and the pelegish. You say that's contrived as all could be. You're telling me a weird story of a pelegish and a concubine and a ketubah and his grandpa's kids? Why? Because the world doesn't operate according to your small logic. The world operates on Torah logic, right? Torah operates on unique laws, not like your laws. So the Torah is written according to the laws of the world. So when you read the Chumash and it says B'nai Banav, and you say, what does that mean, Shlomi? And he says, oh, it's this guy's kids. Keep reading. No, it isn't. There's a Torah law of Chachma that you would only know about if you know the world's laws and how they work. Meaning it's not logical. You can't look at the world and say, that's obvious. It's never obvious. That's called Torah of Shem. David HaMelech says, the water of the world, its teva, its nature, is to go straight up. Only because there's an angel making it like wax and wane. Remove the angel, it goes right up. The whole world operates this way. There's nothing that's simple. Right? You know a little bit about Judaism, right? Is there anything simple we do? Go eat on my house in Passover and tell me how simple it is. Right, don't eat that. That's the afikomen. The what? We're going to hide it, eat it later. We have half of it now. Then we do this. We turn it. Like, what? Nothing's simple, because the world's laws are not simple. They're only simple once you know them, and then you look at it in the Torah and say, oh, that was obvious. It's just like it's written in the Torah. Right? Ger is not convert. I would say ger is convert. If you know what ger is, then you look at it in the Chumash, it's very obvious. Stranger, don't taunt the stranger. But you have to know what is the capacity of the stranger. Right? There's a wisdom of the stranger. This is what's called a chiddush gadol. Right? It's a huge chiddush. Everything has a huge chiddush. Again, you walk into Best Buy and see computers. Just computers, isn't it? But is it really? There's a whole world of stuff. This one has this, that has that. But if you don't know the map, it all looks the same. It's pretty simple. It's called Maisa Bereshis, the workings of creation. The Torah of Shem, the wisdom of that is that wisdom. Moshe's task, again, was to be the Navon. The task never changes. My task is to be a Navon, so is yours. Moshe just had that same level at a higher... Michael Jordan's got a dunk over Magic Johnson. You probably never did. But you probably played a basketball competition where you still had a pretty tough test. It's the same test. Win the game. Score the bucket, right? Alright, so now we're going to go to this last book, and I think we're ready to go. Oh, you know what? I think I did it already, actually. Yeah, I'll close with this note, as I meant. I'll finish with the book. So we mentioned the whole thing. This is like the last 5 minutes, ready? We mentioned about Rabbi Akiva and that whole thing. Alright, we did that topic very well. That there's an idea of a death given to the Sitra Achra as the completion of your soul, and it does things that are very hard to understand. That's why Adam Arishon had his sin with the Eitzadas Tovara. Right? The Nachash was like, remember I said the Moabite might be too strong right now to go down. Adam could not take out the Nachash. It was at its peak apex, it was too strong. Adam had to die. We are convinced that that's a bad thing. Remember, that was a bad thing. There are some souls that by dying, they prepare the way. So we know that Adam got banished from Gan Eden. Right? That banishment might not necessarily be a bad thing. That's how the preparation Kabbalistically to remove the klippas was before Adam was created. So how does Adam start doing his task? He's got to go out in the world to do it. The Bamidbar. In Gan Eden there was no klippas. So by his death, he gets to go out into the Bamidbar and destroy the klippas. If he doesn't die, it doesn't happen. So we say, what's the repair of Adam? Adam, what happened was the tikkun of Adam. We're trained to think that's a bad thing. When you understand, again, the natural wisdom of the world, Torah of Shem, it's not good and bad doesn't weigh into it. Why?
Because it's the same.
Eitzadas Tovara. By definition, good and bad is not the ball game. It's the same, right?
Yeah.
As you said, if you're thinking good and bad, you're in the Eitzadas Tovara.
That's what you said later with the
Right. So you can't think good or bad, better or worse. That's not what we said. Upper and lower is not better or worse. So the tree of life is a paradigm shift, totally different way of thinking. Good and bad doesn't weigh into it. It just is what it is. What is. It's not even a linear thing. We call it Torah A, Torah 4D and 3D. If you're thinking linear and who's higher, me or you, left and right, that's a different ball game. Then you say, man, it's too bad that Adam sinned and ate from the tree. If that's where you're at. But is that really what happened? Well, it was too bad that Rabbi Akiva's skin got raked off. Well, that's your opinion. But it repaired his soul. Different ball game. Ultimately, it's the generation of the desert with Moshe and the generation of the desert, and Adam was the biggest example of that. And I'll close on this note. This is what we have with our main Mishlei discussion. There's some. I wish I could. Let me try to read this in the Lashon real quick, loosely. Everything is equal to the providence on high, that we don't recognize the cries of the poor. When the poor guy's crying out, you don't recognize him. You say, unless the guy's rich and has what do you call it? What do you call that? Protexia. That's all we care about. Because all he has is the work of his hands. Remember that famous meme? Some people are so poor, all they have is money, right? Or some people are so pathetic, all they have is a nefesh, right? So that's the poor guy. And Shema Katan Lamata, and you would say maybe the poor guy is underneath and below, and the great guy is up above in his root. So the schlepper is down low, and the real guy is connected. He says, Shema Salkadatach? You think maybe that's what it is? Yeah? How about certainly, no, not that way. It's not the way you think it is. Because the poor people are filled with mitzvahs like a rimon. You know, the fruit of the rimon has 613 seeds.
Right.
And most rich people who are not B'nai Torah, they kick from the all their good they do. Right, take a rich guy to a restaurant, what does he do? He complains about the service. A poor guy says, thank you. And only people that go after mitzvahs when they're pathetic and cut off. Either that's a havamina, or when the rich guy falls, as it says in Mishlei, that is when he goes after mitzvahs. It's a premise in Mishlei. And it comes out that when it's revealed that the poor people, they find out that their essence is that they're rich. And the poor people will find out, or the rich people will find out that they are actually poor. And they have nothing in their hands. Therefore, the Rabbanim have to be very careful who are Dayanim. This is the essence of what David HaMelech says to King Shlomo Melech in Psalm 72. Be careful when judging the nations, the distant islands, don't rip them off. It's the essence of Mishlei, being the Navon to tell the difference. It's the essence of Melech Mashiach Malchus. We see, there's a story in the Talmud. We saw that the upper winds, we think that we saw in the Talmud that the high winds are really low, and the low winds are really high. And everything is the opposite. Therefore, we have to be very careful when being Dayanim. From this, we understand well what's written above, that the Shem Elokim, to be a real judge, gives power and Gevora to the Dayanim to make Mishpat. Remember we said Moshe was low as Mishpat? Why? Because if he's high, by definition, what? It's not true. Has to be Dafka. He's got to come low to the world of Emes, and he's given Koyach for Shem Elokim to be a Navon to see the truth. Therefore, Lo Yagoro Mibnei Ish V'Yadona Din Emes Lamiso B'Li Mishum Panim. Don't show favor to anybody. You cannot show favor. This is again, do not pervert the judgment of the Ger. And we see that the words of Hinson and the Rosh Hashanah spell Emes, as it says. If you do not show favor to any man, then truth will sprout from the land, and Tzedek from heaven will look out, that we may get tikkun to Hatzedek. You have to do what's right because you do what's right. No one can tell you to do what's right because no one knows what's right because the world's backwards. You gotta just do what's right. Which you gotta get off your high horse and come down and see it legit. Shem Elokim, the power, meaning you don't have the mochin to do it. Where do you become a Navon? In that lower wisdom. Why? How do we know that? Where do you find the Navon? With wisdom. Where does wisdom nest? In Malchus. Where's Malchus? Low. Therefore, the Tikkun is to look out from Shemayim with a clear vision. Shemayim in this case is Malchus of Atzilus. Right? When you peer into Malchus, you can see everything. And you know what, Ari Lewis show? This is why Moshe Rabbeinu says, listen to me, what I do. He was a very humble man, greater than everybody. And we know this because he dafka took a low place. And when he speaks in the name of the Shekhinah, he was not speaking difficult to them. Shekol muvan yafe b'mashi perishna v'lo yamar zed derech gaiva, was not gaiva. He ish Moshe anav ma'ol kol shekein shayu g'divra v'mepiyah gevora. He was speaking as a true Navon. And that is all she wrote. Another week at the Kaisel with Ari Lewis Show. Sign us off, Ari Lewis Show.
That's it for tonight. God bless and good night.